Just imagine, that mistake you thought was buried in the past suddenly comes back with full force to haunt you. Have you ever gone through that? Maybe you're living through something like that right now, feeling that an old misstep is interfering with your present days. And what if I told you that this ghost from the past didn't come just to cause you pain, but also to teach you a valuable lesson? It might seem counterintuitive, but sometimes what we consider our greatest regret can turn into our greatest strength. Curious to find out how.
The soft candlelight illuminated the small Italian restaurant, creating a romantic atmosphere that surrounded Liam and Susan. It was a special night. They were celebrating 1 year of dating. The table, decorated with fresh flowers, exuded a sweet fragrance that mixed with the smell of pasta and sauces coming from the kitchen. Liam looked at Susan, admiring her radiant smile. The blue dress she wore fit her perfectly, and her bright eyes reflected the candle's flame. "I still can't believe it's already been a year," Liam said, holding Susan's hand across the table. "It feels like just yesterday we met." Susan smiled, squeezing his hand affectionately. "And I'm so grateful for every moment. You've brought so much joy into my life, Liam. I never thought I could feel this way again." He felt warmth in his chest upon hearing this. "I feel the same way, Susan. I really want to build a future with you. What do you think about traveling to Italy next summer? I've always dreamed of walking those ancient streets and eating real Neapolitan pizza." Susan laughed, her eyes dancing with excitement. "That would be amazing. We could explore the cities, visit museums, and of course eat lots of Italian food. And who knows, maybe you can show me what you've learned from your grandmother in the kitchen." "Definitely. I'll teach you how to make the best tomato sauce in the world," he promised, imagining them together, both engaged in cooking, laughter echoing through the house. As they continued discussing their plans, a sudden sound interrupted the moment. Liam's phone buzzed on the table, the screen lighting up with a message. He hesitated, glancing at Susan, who was distracted, contemplating the menu. "Sorry, just a second," he said, picking up the phone. Seeing the name on the screen, his heart raced. It was Sarah, his ex-girlfriend, someone he hadn't seen in years. Liam frowned, curiosity mixing with concern. The message was cryptic and provocative. "We need to talk. It's important." Anxiety grew within him as he tried to focus on dinner. He looked at Susan, who was now laughing at a joke he had told. The glow in her eyes made Liam feel a bit guilty for being distracted by the past. "Just a work message," he said, trying to dismiss the unease. Susan smiled, but something in her tone made Liam realize she wasn't entirely convinced. "Are you okay? You seemed a bit distant for a moment." "Yeah, of course. Just thinking about a few things," he replied, forcing a smile. "Let's toast to our year together." They raised their wine glasses and toasted, but even as the glasses clinked, Liam couldn't shake the thought of Sarah's message. What did she want? Why now after so much time? The past seemed to have a habit of resurfacing at unexpected moments, and this time was no different. As the night wore on, Liam tried to focus on the conversation, but thoughts of Sarah became increasingly intrusive. He remembered how their relationship had ended tumultuously, feelings of insecurity and regret surfacing in his mind like shadows. What had he done? He had distanced himself from her, but the guilt still haunted him. "Are you really okay?" Susan asked again, her concern evident. "If something's bothering you, you can tell me." Liam hesitated, the inner conflict growing. He didn't want to worry Susan, but Sarah's message left him uneasy. "I'm just thinking about the future, and how sometimes the past can be complicated." "We all have a past, Liam. What's important is how we choose to handle it," Susan said, her voice soft and understanding. "I'm grateful for what we have now." He looked at her, feeling torn. What could he say without damaging the trust they were building? "You're right. Let's focus on our present." But as they finished dinner, Liam couldn't ignore the feeling that something was approaching, something that could change everything. The past, with all its shadows and secrets, seemed ready to invade the present. And even with the love he felt for Susan, the uncertainty of his choice was starting to weigh on him like a burden he couldn't carry. Liam sat at his desk, the soft light from the lamp illuminating the blank pages before him. But his mind was far from those sheets. Sarah's message still echoed in his head, and curiosity, like an unquenchable flame, burned inside him. He hesitated, contemplating the phone screen, his heart racing with each passing second. What did Sarah want? Why now after so much time? With a deep sigh, he decided he needed to know. With trembling fingers, he began typing. Hi, Sarah. It's been a while, hasn't it? Let's meet to talk. He pressed send, and as soon as he did, a mixture of guilt and anxiety overtook him. What would Susan say if she found out? The image of her smile and the happy moments they shared made him hesitate, but the need to understand what was happening pushed him forward. Sarah's response came quickly, and it left him even more unsettled. Yes, we can meet. I need to tell you some things. How about tomorrow afternoon at the corner cafe? The message was simple, but the tone carried weight. The next day, Liam arrived at the cafe before Sarah, his heart pounding. He sat in the farthest corner, trying to disguise the restlessness consuming him. The smell of fresh coffee and the soft sound of conversations around him were not enough to calm him. He thought of Susan, of how she trusted him and how he was about to break that trust. When Sarah walked in, he recognized her immediately. Though the years had changed her face a bit, the same penetrating eyes and enigmatic aura remained. She greeted him with a nod and a shy smile, but there was palpable tension in the air. Hi, Liam. Thanks for coming, Sarah said, her tone laden with emotion. She sat across from him, her hands clasped on the table. Hi, Sarah. What did you need to tell me? Liam asked, trying to stay calm. She hesitated, looking around as if to make sure they were alone. The truth is, I'm going through a tough time. My life isn't where I thought it would be. Liam frowned, concerned. What happened? Are you okay? Sarah took a deep breath, seeming to struggle with her words. No, I'm not, and it's not just that. There's something I've been keeping, a secret I haven't been able to share with anyone. Liam's curiosity grew, and he was about to ask what it was when Sarah continued. Liam, I'm pregnant. Her words hit him like a bomb. Time seemed to stop as he processed the information. Pregnant? But how is that possible? Are you sure? Yes, I am, and there's a good chance you're the father. Sarah's voice trembled, and Liam realized the seriousness of the situation. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. But what about my relationship with Susan? This can't happen. It can't be true. He felt crushed, his mind swirling with a confusion of feelings and consequences. Sarah looked at him with an intensity that made him feel exposed. I know it's a lot for you, but I needed you to know. I'm not here to cause problems, but I need help. I can't do this alone. Liam felt a knot tighten in his stomach. The responsibility that had fallen on him was overwhelming. He thought of Susan and how this revelation could ruin everything. I need to think about this, he said, his voice almost a whisper. When he left the cafe, each step felt heavier than the last. The conversation with Sarah had left him confused and anguished. How could he tell Susan about this meeting? He knew he needed to be honest, but the fear of her reaction paralyzed him. The thought of losing what he had with Susan was unbearable, but the weight of the truth pressed on him like a rock in his heart. With a tumultuous mind, he decided it was time to face reality. He needed to tell Susan about the meeting, no matter how painful it would be. After all, honesty was the only way to preserve what was left of their relationship. But how could he explain all of this? Liam sat in the living room, his eyes fixed on the phone screen, where Sarah's message still seemed to pulse in his mind. After the romantic dinner with Susan, where the atmosphere had been filled with love and plans, he now found himself trapped in an emotional labyrinth. Breathing deeply, he decided it was time to be honest with Susan. The idea of hiding something so significant made him restless. When Susan entered the room, her bright eyes and warm smile contrasted with the turmoil swirling inside him. Hey, love, how was your day? She asked, placing her bag on the couch. Liam hesitated for a moment, searching for the right words. The weight of the confession seemed to grow heavier with each passing second. I need to tell you something, he began, his voice strained. She frowned, sensing the gravity in his tone. I got a message from someone I haven't seen in a long time. It's Sarah. The silence that followed was deafening. Susan's smile faded, replaced by an expression of confusion and distrust. Sarah, your ex-girlfriend? What does she want? She's going through a tough time and wanted to talk. I arranged a meeting, Liam admitted, feeling as if he were confessing a crime. Yet Susan's gaze hardened, and he saw a mixture of pain and anger forming on her face. Liam, Hila's going through a tough time and wanted to talk. I scheduled a meeting, Liam admitted, feeling as if he were confessing a crime. Susan's gaze hardened, and he saw a mixture of pain and anger forming on her face. You scheduled a meeting with her? After everything you two have been through? Liam, this is a slap in the face to me, she said, her voice trembling. How could you do this? It's not what you think. It's not about wanting to get back with her. It's just that I felt guilty. She said she needed help. Liam tried to explain, but the words seemed to falter on the tip of his tongue. Guilty? You feel guilty? And what about me? And what about us? Do you think this is fair to me? Susan crossed her arms, the coldness in her posture leaving him anguished. He knew he had made a mistake by not speaking up earlier, but what he feared most now was losing what they had built together. I don't want my past to interfere with our present. You mean everything to me, Susan, he said, trying to ease the tension. I just thought that maybe if I could help her. Help? You think this is helping? You're putting yourself in a complicated situation, Liam. What will you do if she tries to worm her way back into your life? And if you feel something for her? Susan couldn't hide the insecurity that hovered in her voice. Liam felt his heart tighten. I don't love Sarah. I love you. What we had was important, but it's in the past. I don't want that to ruin what we have now. Susan looked at him, her eyes welling up. I need some time to think. This is too much to process, Liam. I don't know if I can handle this right now. With those words, she turned and left the room, leaving Liam alone, surrounded by the shadows of his choices. The night dragged on, and Liam sat on the couch, lost in thought. He knew he needed to confront Sarah again, but what she had to say could be even more devastating. Deep down, a voice whispered that he was about to embark on a path that could change everything, but he felt powerless to alter the course of events. The next day, the pressure consumed him. He decided he needed to meet with Sarah one more time. The meeting was arranged at a secluded cafe, a place where privacy could offer some respite from the turmoil brewing in his life. When he arrived, his mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. Sarah was already there, with an expression that mixed nervousness and determination. Hi, Liam, she said, her gaze fixed on him. Thanks for coming. I needed to talk to you. He sat down, his heart racing. What did you want to tell me? The tension in the air was palpable, and he felt that something big was about to be revealed. I'm pregnant, she said, and the words fell between them like a bomb ready to explode. And you might be the father. Liam's world collapsed at that moment. He remained silent, his mind spinning as he tried to process the gravity of the revelation. Each beat of his heart seemed to echo in his head, and he knew that his past had come back to haunt him in a way he could never have predicted. Liam paced back and forth in his small apartment, his hands rubbing together anxiously as his mind raced with the recent events. Susan's face lingered before his eyes, an image of love and trust that was now becoming hazy. He remembered the look on her face when she heard about his reunion with Sarah, the shadow of doubt that had crossed her expression as if a veil had been cast over the solid relationship they had built together. How could I let this happen? He thought, tormented by the weight of the choices that now followed him like shadows. The ring of his phone interrupted his thoughts. It was Sarah, again. The message was simple, but loaded with tension. We need to talk. I can't wait any longer. The urgency in her words left him uneasy. Liam felt torn, as if he were walking a tightrope between two lives, one with Susan, filled with hopes and dreams, and another with Sarah, marked by a tumultuous past he was trying to bury. I can't do this, he muttered to himself, but a part of him felt he needed to understand what was at stake. On impulse, he decided to call Sarah. Her voice, when she answered, sounded nervous, but there was a firmness that intrigued him. Liam, I really need you to listen to me. This is all so confusing, and I don't want you to think I'm playing dirty, but I can't ignore what I feel. The sincerity in her words hit him like a punch in the stomach. Sarah, I don't know what you expect from me. I have a life now with Susan. This is too complicated, he replied, trying to stay calm, but doubt was already beginning to gnaw at his certainties. I understand, but you need to know that I'm not here to destroy what you have. I just want to be honest. And if you don't help me, I'll have to tell Susan the truth, she said, the tension in her voice growing. and that could change everything. At that moment, Liam felt the ground open up beneath his feet. Sarah's threat was like a burning fire, destroying the trust he had built with Susan. "You can't do this," he protested, his voice choked. "Sarah, you're playing with fire. I'm not playing, Liam. I'm desperate. You know I can't do this alone," she pleaded, the fragility in her voice contrasting with the harshness of her words. "I just want you to think about what's happening. I'm not the villain in this story." He hung up the call, his heart racing. Liam sat on the couch, his head in his hands. He needed help, someone who could help him navigate this emotional storm. Why is this all happening now, he thought, his stomach churning. The dilemma consumed him. What did he really want? What was the right thing to do? With a deep sigh, he decided he needed someone to talk to. The idea of seeking out a therapist terrified him, but the pressure was becoming unbearable. He could no longer carry this burden alone. "Maybe it's time to understand what I really feel," he murmured to himself. Liam picked up his phone and searched for professionals in his area. The list of names and specializations seemed endless, but he felt drawn to a therapist who promised to help with relationship issues. With his heart pounding, he made the first call. The voice on the other end of the line was calm and welcoming, and that somehow gave him a bit of relief. "Hello, my name is Liam. I'd like to schedule an appointment," he said, his voice trembling but determined. Every word seemed like a step toward a new understanding, a new chance to reconnect with himself and others. As he spoke, he realized that this journey might be the first step in freeing himself from the shackles of the past and finding a way back to the clarity and peace he so desired. In the therapy room, the environment was welcoming, with soft-toned walls and a comfortable sofa that invited reflection. Liam sat tensely, his fingers intertwined and his breathing irregular. The therapist, a middle-aged woman with a compassionate gaze, began the session with a simple but profound question. "What brings you here today, Liam?" He hesitated, allowing the silence to fill the space. "I feel lost. My life was going so well, and now everything's turned upside down. Sarah came back, and I don't know how to handle it." The therapist nodded, encouraging him to continue. "And what exactly about her return is affecting you so much?" Liam looked down, trying to organize his confused thoughts. "I've always felt guilty about my relationship with Sarah. I never ended it the right way. I just left. So when she showed up, all those memories and feelings came flooding back. And now, with this pregnancy. How do you feel about that news?" "I feel scared. On one hand, I want to be a good partner for Susan, but on the other, I can't ignore what Sarah went through. It's like I'm stuck between two worlds." "That's understandable, Liam. But it's important to remember that you're not responsible for Sarah's choices, only for your own," she said, her voice soft but firm. He took a deep breath, feeling a little lighter. "I know, but I can't help but think that somehow I'm to blame. If I had handled the breakup better, maybe she wouldn't be in this situation." The therapist smiled. "And what if you looked at it another way? What do you really want for your life now?" The question hit him like an arrow. Liam closed his eyes, imagining the future he always wanted with Susan. "I want stability. I want to build a future with her. But how can I do that knowing that my past still haunts me?" The words hung in the air, and the therapist let him reflect for a moment. When Liam opened his eyes again, a new determination appeared in his gaze. "I need to be honest with Susan. I can't keep hiding this from her." "That's an important step, Liam. Honesty is fundamental in any relationship. How do you think she'll react?" the therapist asked. "I don't know, but I need to try. I can't let fear keep me from being truthful. Susan deserves to know the truth, no matter how painful it is." After a few more minutes of conversation, Liam left the therapy session with a new sense of purpose. The walk home seemed shorter, but his mind was in turmoil. He knew the conversation with Susan would be difficult, but there was no more time to delay. When he arrived home, his heart was pounding in his chest. Susan was in the kitchen, preparing dinner. The smell of fresh herbs and roasted garlic filled the air, creating a cozy atmosphere. However, Liam felt that the tension between them was palpable. "Hi, love," Susan said without looking at him. "How was your session?" "It was revealing," Liam replied, swallowing hard. "We need to talk about something important." She stopped what she was doing and turned to him, her gaze cautious. What happened? It's about Sarah. She's back and, well, we need to talk about the pregnancy. Silence settled between them, and Susan crossed her arms, her face closing off. You still haven't told me everything that happened between you two, Liam. What else do I need to know? I don't want you to think that I sought her out. I didn't know she was going through this until the reunion, but I feel that you have the right to know everything. I don't want this to come between us. Susan took a deep breath, her expression unreadable. I need some time to think, Liam. This is a lot to process. He nodded, feeling the desperation growing inside him. I understand, but please don't leave me. I want to fight for you. As the words echoed in the room, the tension rose, and Liam barely noticed that the past was about to come into play once again. The doorbell rang, and Susan's expression turned to confusion. Who could that be now? She muttered as she walked toward the door. Liam followed her, his heart racing. When the door opened, Sarah's figure appeared with a determined look that made Liam's blood run cold. What could have been an honest conversation was about to become a battleground, and he was barely prepared to face the consequences. The tension in the air was palpable as Sarah, her eyes shining with indignation, confronted Liam and Susan. "You're a coward, Liam," she fired, her voice trembling with anger. "You can't just ignore what's happening. I'm pregnant, and you need to take responsibility." Her words echoed in the room like thunder breaking the awkward silence. Susan, frozen, looked from Sarah to Liam, the confusion quickly turning to shock. "Pregnant? You can't be serious." Susan finally managed to articulate, the disbelief mixing with rage. "How could you do this, Liam?" Her gaze was fixed on Liam, seeking answers that seemed to elude him. Liam's expression was a mixture of despair and guilt as he tried to formulate an explanation. "Wait, Susan. I didn't know this would happen. Liam began, but the words failed him. He looked at Sarah, who stared back at him with defiance in her eyes. "I thought you were just going through a tough time, that you wanted to talk about the past. And you really thought I'd come here just to reminisce about old times? You're so naive, Liam." Sarah cut him off with a sarcastic smile. "I came back because you need to know the truth. I'm not the only one involved in this. Your past isn't as buried as you'd like to believe." Susan felt a wave of anger and pain. "What's the truth, Sarah? What do you mean by that?" Her eyes turned cold as she braced herself to hear more about the woman who had so abruptly invaded her life. "I know you and Liam had a complicated relationship, but this isn't just about you two. It's about what he did to me," Sarah began, her voice now calmer but firm. "You don't know, but I was manipulated by him for a long time. He left me without explanations, and he left me in the worst shape." "Manipulated? You're playing the victim now?" Liam retorted, his tone rising. "We both know the situation isn't like that. You made your choices. It's not fair to blame this on me." "But don't you see? That's your nature, Liam. You've always dodged the consequences. And now, with Susan here, you're doing the same thing. I just want you to face the truth." Sarah replied, her voice loaded with emotion. At that moment, Susan's phone vibrated in her bag. She quickly grabbed it, and when she saw the screen, she saw the name of a mutual friend who knew Sarah. "Sorry, I need to take this," she said, and stepped out of the room, her heart racing. Deep down, she felt she needed more information. Outside, the friend quickly answered. "Susan, I've been waiting for your call. You won't believe what I found out about Sarah," the friend began, her voice urgent. "She's not who you think she is. I heard it from her own mouth." "What do you mean?" Susan asked, curiosity and concern mixing in her mind. "She's manipulating this whole situation, Susan. She wants to get back at Liam for the breakup. Don't believe anything she says about the pregnancy. I saw her with another guy a few weeks ago. She's not pregnant with Liam's baby. It's all a setup." The friend spoke quickly, and the words cut like a knife. Susan felt a wave of clarity. "Thanks for letting me know," she replied, the determination growing inside her. She returned to the room where Liam and Sarah were still standing, the tension still in the air, but now with a new perspective. "Sarah, I just received information that changes everything," Susan declared, her voice firm. "You're not who you say you are. You're trying to manipulate Liam and me in this situation. I won't allow you to do that." Sarah's expression turned to disdain. "You don't understand anything, Susan. Liam is a coward, and I'm just doing what I need to survive. Survive or get revenge? You have no power here, Susan replied, stepping forward. I'm putting an end to this. You can't continue to interfere in our lives. Liam watched the scene, a mix of relief and admiration for Susan, and a new determination began to grow within him. Sarah, I won't let you control my life anymore. You need to leave now and don't come back, he said, his voice firm. Sarah hesitated, but the determination in Liam and Susan's eyes made her realize that her game was over. With one last look of contempt, she turned and left, leaving behind a heavy silence, but at the same time, a new hope. Liam took a deep breath, looking at Susan, and finally saw the strength she had. I'm sorry for all of this. I really didn't know, he began, but Susan interrupted him. I know, Liam, but we need to be honest with each other from now on. The past may have its weight, but I want a future with you. Let's rebuild the trust together. He nodded, knowing that this was the moment of truth and redemption. Their story wasn't over, it was just beginning again, with the promise of renewed love and a stronger partnership. Now let's reflect. How many times have you found yourself reliving moments you'd rather erase from your history? What might those mistakes be trying to teach you? Perhaps it's time to stop running and face them head on. The truth is that we all carry flaws, but it's how we deal with them that defines who we are. How about turning what was once a burden into a springboard for something greater? I want to invite you to think. How can you learn from your mistakes and maybe even use them to your advantage? Don't let this lesson go unnoticed, and take the opportunity to learn more by clicking on the video that's appearing on your screen now. In my opinion, this is one of the best stories I've ever told, the most emotional. And if you liked what you heard now, you'll definitely love this other story too. So subscribe to the channel, click on the video on your screen now, and I'll see you in a few seconds.